You're listening to Second Advent Radio 101.5 FM. Stay tuned in for our upcoming program.
Thank you for joining Dr. Andrew Gardner for Your Health and You. This program will challenge you to live a healthy lifestyle from God's Word and the best health practices. Call your friends and family members together for the program, Your Health and You. And now, here is your host, Dr. Andrew Gardner. Be blessed as you listen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our program this afternoon, Your Health and You. We're so glad we can join you this afternoon. We missed you for the last few weeks, but we're glad we're here this evening. Also today, our anniversary program today, our telethon. We want to thank you for joining us today, celebrating with us. We are happy for your support, for your prayers, for your pledges, and we pray that you will continue to join us here on Second Advent Radio as we bring to you the best in Christian broadcasting. Remember today to tune in, call a friend. You're in tune with us here, Second Advent Radio 101.5 on your FM dial. Also, you can reach us on a YouTube channel, also on our online portal, and also you can call us in at 562-1015. If you have a question or concern, we're here to answer all of your questions. Today in studio with us today, we have a special guest. My guest today is Sister Shineri Hughes, or Elder Hughes. She's a teacher by profession, health educator, so she's really able to be with us today. This is the first time. Welcome, Sister Hughes, for our program this afternoon. We trust and pray that God will be with you as you come on board with us this afternoon. But before she come on, we just do some housekeeping. Before we bring her on, we do some housekeeping. So we want to say a big shout out to all our friends in Radio Lands, those in Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat, those, of course, who are viewing us on the World Wide Web, those in UK, those in the USA, and those in Trinidad, Grenada, Barbados, Guyana. Anywhere you're hearing us here, we want to welcome you, and we pray and hope that as we come together to bring with you the best in health talk, that you'll be blessed this evening. Before we go any further, we're going to bow our heads as we normally do and pray and ask God to be with us as we enter into a broadcast for today. Loving Lord, we say thank you for your blessings of today. You have given us life, you have given us hope, and we pray, Lord, that you will guide us in our discussion this evening. Lord, we want what we say to be divinely inspired, directed by you. So bless your waiting audience, the viewing and listening audience, and may this evening's broadcast be a blessing to everyone. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And Elder Hughes, can I say Elder Hughes, Sister Hughes?
Of course.
Right, welcome to Second Advent. Just greet the folks for a minute, Elder Hughes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very privileged to be here on the program this evening. I'm hoping that I can add to the quality of the program. I've been following it almost every week. And I'm hoping that this program this afternoon will, of course, add to your health knowledge and how much you can appreciate your health. As we know, our health is our wealth. So I'm really privileged to be here, and I'm hoping that you're listening, or the listening audience, and even those on the World Wide Web can really gain and glean some health information.
Thank you, Sister Hughes. And Sister Hughes is a teacher by profession, health educator, so she's right in the area of health. Also, we want to remind us of our main text. We hope you don't forget it. Psalms 139, verse 14. It says, I'll praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and my soul know it quite well. Now, we often use that as a foundation to really let folks understand that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Right? We were made in the image of God. God designed us. He designed the way we should live, the lifestyle we should adopt, the food we should eat, what we should do. And so this evening we're going to look a little bit at the holistic view of health, as we seek to bring into focus that health is not a one dimension. It's a multi-dimensional thing, and we want us to keep that in mind as we go along. You can't divorce any aspect from the health. So we'll be dealing with life, healing, health, and we're going to deal with the different aspect of the health as we have it there, the total health development, excuse me there. So we'll be looking at the physical health, the spiritual health, the social and the mental health. We may not cover all today, but at least we're going to make a try as we seek to educate you on the aspect of health today. So we're dealing with the holistic view of health, and in John 10:10, the Bible gives the text. He says, Jesus says, "I'm come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly." Right. So Christ's purpose is to give us life, life in all of its fullness. All right. So the God who created us for his purpose, for his glory, and he has given us life and health, and he has also given us instructions whereby we can be kept in the best of health. Today, my guest with me, Sister Hughes, Ellie Hughes. We're here going to talk together. It's a conversation. We're going to talk together in terms of health. Sister Hughes, if I could ask you to just get a debate about what's your view of health. We know there are different dimensions, but from your standpoint, what is your view of health?
Okay, I think from my standpoint, it's a whole body affair. It has to do with, of course, your physical health, what you're eating, what you are interacting with, that's the social aspect, how you're thinking, how your mind is, that's the mental and emotional aspect. So it has to do not just with what's on your plate or what's in your glass, or as to be more direct, what's on your fork or your spoon. It has to do with the entire body, your mind, your body, and your social interactions.
Okay. Now we are told that the health situation with us, we're told that health, the World Health Organization, WHO, defines health to be more than just the absence of disease. Right? Mm-hmm. It has to do with the physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, because all these come into play. So we talk about the absence of disease. Now, there's some folks who believe that if you're not sick physically, then you're okay.
Right, right.
But we're discovering that you can be sick mentally, right?
Yes.
And one of my inspired authors said that sickness is 90% wholly imaginary. It's all in the mind. So, and as the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you think you're sick, you could be sick, and in reality, in some cases, you might feel that way.
Right.
You might feel that way, just like you were talking just a few minutes ago about your cousin who says doesn't feel well. So indeed, you can feel well, but then you also have to have a optimistic old view. You have to tell yourself, look, hey, even though I might be diseased in body, you have to say, look, I have the will to live. I have the will to overcome. I believe I can overcome. But then for me to overcome whatever, I need to change some of what I'm doing.
Right.
You know, a lot of people want to be well, but there's not the desire to change. So if I ask now, what's the relationship between wanting to get better and also getting there? Is there the issue of the will come to play, or we don't need the willpower to do? How do we define that? Okay, want to get better. Is it involved the fact that your will must be involved, or the factors are involved but not your will?
I think the mind, your mindset has to do a lot with your recovery and your healing. For example, they have a saying that says, our cells listen to us. I've often heard it, but I've never really understood what that meant until I started to study health. Right. I said, your cells listen to you, because the brain actually, and along with, our hormones and so on, tell the body what to do and helps medication along. As you said, WHO says it's more than just the absence of disease. So you could be saying, okay, I'm taking my vitamins, I'm exercising, I'm not sick. But then your mind now, you may be stressed out. I think we might go into a little bit about stress and how stress can affect your health a bit. And sometimes you might be not feeling sick, but indeed you are sick maybe mentally and emotionally. And then the stress adds to maybe how the body functions. So you may very well be, breaking down your immune system, things like that. Your immune system listens to the cells. And if the cells are saying, well, we are stressed out, of course you're going to be not feeling well.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Now, we're told that the Savior ministered both to the soul and the body.
Yes, he did.
All right? His purpose, God gave us the health message to keep us in health. Mm-hmm. Also, it is given for us to get ourselves prepared to meet him. Many people try to divorce health from God, health from well-being, but you cannot live any old life and expect that your health is going to be intact all the time. You see, you're what you do, right? And one of my favorite quotations I learned from a good friend of mine, he says, what you will be, you're now becoming. So if you're going to be in the best of health, you have to start to practice to live healthy lives, because healthy lives can serve God better. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, as the psalmist said, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, God didn't just made us like that. We are not robots. We are beings with sense. God also directs in terms of he made provision for our sustenance.
Yes.
He made provision for our health care, our well-being. So if we follow the guidelines that God has given us, there is no need for us to suffer.
That's true. Because
right?
he set down the ideal diet,
mm-hmm.
and because of sin and everything, it became very thwarted. And so I don't believe, I don't think that when he created us initially that there was an issue of stress. The body was whole, the body was healthy. So along with the things that he gave for us to eat and partake of, there was the mental element of it also. No stress, no strain. We didn't have to work. So as we can see, it was a physical and a mental aspect of it also. And of course, he brought Eve into the picture, so the socialization started to come into play. So from the onset, we can see that health is not just a one-stream physical focus. It's holistic. As we said, we have physical, spiritual, social, and mental.
Right. Now there's a question I have for you. Is there mind and body connection? How important is the mind and body connection? Is there synergy between the mind and the body?
Well, it says that many of the diseases that we suffer from are a result of mental depression, grief, anxiety, and being unhappy, right? Things like courage and hope and faith, and love promote a healthier lifestyle. When
mm-hmm.
you're happier, you tend to be more healthy. Even though
right.
you might be the healthiest person, some persons say, but this person, he's fit, or she's fit, she's healthy, we might even go as far to say she's a vegetarian, but then that person is not mentally sound. Can we say that person is really healthy?
No, yes, good point. Now, there's a close connection between the mind and the body.
Yes.
Because when one is affected, the other one sympathizes. So, if you are mentally stressed, it's going to affect your physical well-being as well. It's going to affect your spiritual well-being, your social health as well. Because, for instance, if you are not feeling well physically, you may not want to associate with people. So you're suffering on the social level.
Right.
And also, you might be suffering on the mental and the spiritual as well.
Yes.
Now, what you need to do is to get back into balance whereby you are able to relate. And now, for instance, like in the COVID situation, at the height of the COVID now, you find folks had to isolate,
yes,
had to quarantine because of the fact that they want to spread this thing around to other people. And so you find that there's a physical element. You find the social element. Because when you have to stay in a room by yourself, or you isolate now, it means that there's no one to talk to.
Right.
You're cut off from other people. Now, in Antigua, we're fortunate that we still had folks who we can talk to.
Right.
But in some bigger countries like United States, Europe, and so on now, you're finding folks who come down so hard with this thing, they're dying away from home, and the relatives just get a call to say, look, hey, your folks have passed, and they
Yes.
have taken them to bury. They didn't have a chance to even have closure.
Right.
So you find now that there's a mental aspect now. You're grieving. There's no physical body to bring closure. So it's affecting you mentally. And so if you're not strong, you're going to find yourself breaking down.
Yes.
Your stress level is going to get high. Just imagine your mom dies and they say, look, she is dead and she's already cremated or she's buried because we could not afford to bring her back into society because of what she died from. How do you connect that with the rest of you? How do you manage that?
Well, I can speak personally about the COVID situation and death. My grandmother passed in 2021. I was not able to go up to travel to the United States. For the funeral, we were very close. I still stay in the family home. And it was very expensive for a lot of relatives to travel home to Antigua and also to bring the body back. And as you were speaking, in terms of the emotional and social aspect, even though we were not able to be there together as a family for the funeral physically, the point of social media stepped in and really played an integral role in how it can help with the connecting in terms of the mental and the social health, maybe the spiritual health also, because we had online platforms that we could use to still connect. So it bears to say that it's more than the physical element. We needed that comfort. We needed to have socialization still, even though it was on a screen or a device screen and so on. So we see here that it's not just about the physical aspect, the social and the spiritual and the mental health. And it helped a bit because suppose we didn't have these social media platforms to help us with our social and emotional health, then being away from each other physically, of course, physical was out of the way during COVID. So we still see that we needed to still socialize. We still needed spiritual help. The churches were also shut down, but we still needed to cater for a person's spiritual growth and the mental health. Some persons weren't able to go out and physically have recreation and social activities. They still needed that mental element to keep them. So we're seeing here that the body does not just function as a physical being, but also as a spiritual, social, and mental being. Persons' diets changed a lot. And you even needed to use more foods that are holistic because maybe persons were under more stress, you would say. And maybe some persons suffered because they weren't able to physically go out and get the foods that they needed in there. And a lot of foods went short, So we're seeing here that these four aspects, physical, spiritual, and social health, really are holistic. When we talk about abundance, because the word says that Christ died that we'll have life and have it more abundant, and he wants us to prosper in health. But do you think that is just physical prosperity? Is it just physical abundance?
But it's all encompass every aspect, the physical, the spiritual, social, mental, because you need all of these dimensions to equip you for the task that lies ahead. As we just were discussing about the social aspect of it, it's very important that we socialize. We have people you can talk to because we see what happened during COVID, right? And friends out in Maryland, we want you to understand what we're doing. We are laying the foundation. We are trying to educate you in terms of what can cause you to get sick physically and mentally, and what you can do to prevent these things so that you can get yourself in the right frame of mind to be able to overcome and to live a healthy life. Now, some folks divorce the spiritual part from the word health. But what we want to say to you this afternoon is that when it comes to the spiritual part, we're going to look a little bit at the spiritual part. When I say we're going to look at all the parts of it, but we're going to look at the spiritual part. When you're spiritually healthy, you have a peace of mind. You're contented. You have a purpose. You have a positive outlook. You're trusting in a divine being that you know is able to help you. You know, it's very difficult for someone who do not know Christ or have not experienced Christ to be able to say, well, look, I'm going through a lot of troubles, but I have a peace of mind.
Yeah.
There's something within me that is saying, look, my spirituality is to the level where that my physical condition may be untenable. My social condition may be tenable, but when it comes to the spiritual part, that is intact, and that lays the foundation now to build, to improve on the other areas. Right? It goes to build to improve on the other areas. So when you have that spiritual health, you have that inner peace. Right? Life for you becomes more meaningful. You're responsive to the Supreme Being. You help others so that even though you may lose a job and you don't have money to carry on, you're not worried, because what? It is well with you and God, and God has given it well-being. And those who don't know God, you're going to find them worrying about where the next meal coming from, where the next money coming from to pay the mortgage, pay the school fee. I've known of folks who have all this to pay for, and I say, Pastor, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. I say, really? He said, Pastor, my God is able. He's going to provide. And trust me, they will come back and say, Pastor, you know what? God came to me better than I thought he would. And so they don't worry. All right? And that's what God wants to do, because he said, look, he said, I take care of the sparrows, I take care of the birds and the bees, I clothe the lily of the field. What about you, who is created in mine image? God will take care of you. All right? And so we need all these four dimensions: the spiritual, the mental, the social, and the physical aspect as well. It's important for us to recognize that if our physical bodies are diseased, it's going to affect our mental affair, because you're going to start to worry.
Yes.
You're going to start to take on things. You're going to go into depression because what? You have this backache, or you have this foot that is killing you, or you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you some tests, and when the result come back now, the doctor say you have an issue that is terminal.
Yes.
Right? And so your physicalness now start to affect your mental capacity to reason. Then you start to find, well, I can't go to church now, I can't read properly, I can't concentrate, because what? The pain is so overbearing. So my spirituality is low, my physical activity is low, my social interaction is low, and my mental capacity is low. Why? Because I'm worried about myself. I'm going into depression. Why? Because the pain is unbearable, and the doctor has given me some bad news.
Right. So Pastor, they're all interrelated. Is
Right.
that what you can say? Because you touched on a point there, and I just had to the issue of like when you may have to take some sick leave. Now you've been running yourself ragged. That's your physical health. And then, as you said, the doctor sends you on some sick leave and gives you a prescription for some medication or procedure that you cannot afford. It starts to affect the mental health because you start getting stressed out. Then you're home, you can't socialize as you want to. You're home and you can't go to church as you want to. Your internet is off at home because you can't pay for the internet bill anymore because you just paid a lot of money for the MRI or the X-ray or the medication. So you can't get onto the Zoom platform to get any, little spirituality. So it all interrelates. The mental health, you're accustomed to going out and maybe doing a me time moment. You can't do that anymore. And that has you, like, it's just gets you off balance.
Yes.
Because so when you don't take care of one aspect, you find that it affects some of the other aspects. And also, I don't know, I have been talking to quite a few persons, and we're saying, in our culture, especially Caribbean people, when we hear about mental health, first thing we think about is what? Crazy. Something is wrong with you.
Right.
But I find that we're now coming out of that a bit more, where persons are learning to appreciate the value of mental health, because we see a lot of persons successful, whether they're children or adults, and they're healthy, physically healthy, but then the way they think, they're depressed, and they're wondering, why is my body, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm doing the vitamins, I am eating the healthy food, but I'm still stressed out. And then now the stress is going to trigger, as we know, sometimes digestion, our blood flow and circulation, and we're wondering, why is our physical health breaking down? But then when you backtrack, you said, well, this past year or so, I've been really stressed out, or I've been studying, and, or I was let go from my job, something like that. So sometimes when you back check and you say, okay, there was this really mental health situation that caused my physical health to suffer. So, friends, we want to remind you that all of these four are linked: your physical, your spiritual, your social, your mental. And some persons might be wondering, well, okay, I'm not really a spiritual person, I don't go to church. Are you saying that I can't partake of good, balanced health? So, Pastor, if you can expound on that a bit more for us. What if those persons...
If you don't go to church?
If we don't... Some persons are saying, well, Pastor, well, I don't go to church. I hardly know who God is. Are you saying that I shouldn't be healthy?
Well, I mean, yes, the folks are healthy, yes. They don't go to church. They don't really believe in the God thing as we do. But they're in health, yes, to some extent, but they can be in better health if they try to focus though on the spiritual dimension. I think what is happening with the folks is that they look at the church, they look at Christianity as something that has failed some of them.
Okay.
And by that extension now they say, well, and we're told we're in a predominantly Christian society. But in a predominantly Christian society, you discover that not everybody is spiritual.
Right.
Because you see the activities they're involved in, right? But then the strange thing about it is that the mind plays trick on us, because we were society says, okay, we are Christian society because we go to church. Whether Saturday or Sunday we go to church. We don't live bad. We don't be bad company. We go to work. We behave ourselves. We keep the law and so forth. And so we're basically doing well. But then there's not this connection. You see, as I read in my devotion thought this morning, there's some folks who are very good at telling you about God, right? They're good at telling about a spiritual being who they have not met, or they don't have an experience with that person.
Right.
And so you cannot fully witness about somebody who you don't have an experience with. Right, I may know about the works you do, Sister Hughes, in terms of your work in certain areas and so on. I could write essays, I could write a thesis using some of your works, but then if I don't know you personally, it's not as effective as I know you. Right? And the same thing with God. You may hear about God, but spiritually you don't know God, because what? You have not taken the time. Right? You have to take the time to develop that. And one of the ways you have to become more acquainted with the creator of the universe and the natural beauties around you. All right? Become acquainted with the thoughts and teaching of great men and spiritual leaders. So you have to spend time with God if you're going to develop that spiritual relationship with God. Now, if I want to be a social being, I must take time to call somebody, take time to WhatsApp somebody, or maybe take time to visit somebody. If I might be busy, say, look, you know what? Every day for half an hour, I'm going to take some time from my busy schedule just to go out there, so-and-so, to could be a young person or it could be an elderly person where you're building capacity there. You are sharing, you're a social being, because all of us are social beings.
And maybe doing that too can be boosting that person's social health and mental health, to actually be able to share and to de-stress. And it can be a two-way health opportunity for both of you. You may have realized, okay, I'm going to visit this person to lift up their spirits a bit. And then when you go, you find that your spirits are also lifted. And that too now adds to their and your social and mental health.
So both persons helping each other
Yes.
by the social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we also want to share with you today is the fact that God is giving us two choices. He said to you, look, I want to present you life and health, blessing and cursing. And he said, choose life and live. Now, we serve a God that gives us choices. God's nature is not to force his will upon us. But here is it now. He made us. And he says to us, I want to be in good health even as the soul prospers.
Yes.
He gave us guideline in terms of our physical well-being, our spiritual well-being. Now, one of the aspects of our physical well-being has to do with what we eat. Because God saw that it was very important that our diets be the most important component in terms of our physical things that we ingest.
Because our diet is what we feed our organs.
Right.
Yes.
And not only that, but our diet also contribute to our regular progress in life. Also, when you are sick and the doctor says you have a disease now, your diet plays a very important role in terms of you getting better or getting worse. All right? Now, I often say to people that what you get from your food or the nutrients you get, the enzymes you get from the food you eat and from the supplement you make now, these go to make you better.
Okay.
Not taking a medication. Now, there's some folks who have a challenge with that because they believe if they feel sick or nauseated or they have a tummy ache or belly ache, whatever, that they got to pop a pill. But sometimes you have to look at the holistic view. Look at the cause, right? The holistic view of life will actually look at the cause of why I'm having the pain, why I'm having discomfort. Just don't pop a pill because you want to get rid of the pain. See, the pain is a messenger. And the messenger is saying, hey, there's something wrong here.
Right. So it's just like, okay, I have a back pain. The back pain is an indicator that something else is probably going on, maybe with my spine. But then I just pop a painkiller and I feel better, and I think that the problem is solved, but then the problem with my spine might still be there. So the pain left.
You see, the medication is produced for basically two purposes in life. One, for pain control.
Okay.
And for infection control.
I think persons, most of us, myself included, growing up and even maybe as recent as last year, were just familiar with the first one. But with just pain control.
Right.
We didn't know medication was really, I mean, because most persons think, and I can be corrected, when I don't feel the pain, that means that I'm better.
Right.
But that's not always the case.
The challenge for many people, they don't know because when they were producing drugs and pharmaceuticals, it was produced for two purposes. Surgery, and because you have to do surgery, you have to have a level of control where pain is controlled. Because you don't want the patient to have open wounds. You do abdominal surgery, it means that all the tissue and all the nerves and everything is going to be cut. Yes. And then also you need the medication to control the pain and also to control infection.
Right, because it's exposed to.
Right. So those are the two main purposes why you need pain medication. Now, as I said, you pop a pill and you feel a level of comfort or relief. But what really happens there is that it's not because what is causing the pain has left your body. It is still there. And I say to people all the time, take for instance, when a doctor gives you a prescription, he gives you a prescription for at least 7 days. Or sometimes for 2 weeks, depending on what your situation is.
Right.
And the reason why he give you a prescription because one dose ain't going to help you.
Okay.
Because the severity of the pain suggests that you need to be on the medication for at least 7 days. But even though in the medication for 7 days, and the doctor says, look, if after 7 days you don't feel better, come back to me. What he does, he changes the medication. But he hasn't yet looked at the root cause yet. All right? So let me just explain for the listening audience what happens when you take medication. Now, when you take a medication for pain, what it does, it creates what called a synapse. Because in your body, you have what we call nerve endings.
Right.
And the nerve endings are like three prongs and flowers, like the tree. Then you have the stem. They have the leaves and all this stuff. So what happens is that the
end of those send out signals.
the nerve endings are touching like this. If you could see my hand there on YouTube, they're touching like this. All right? And when you take the medication now, it creates a synapse, so it snaps, so they move apart.
Right.
So it appears that the pain is gone, but the pain hasn't gone. That's why you have a pill for 7 days.
Okay.
Right. So after a few hours now, each pill, so if you take 2 tablets every 4 hours, it simply means that every 4 hours, the possibility is the pain is going to come back because what? It has not gone.
Right. You just took care of the discomfort,
Right.
but
And
not the
so
problem.
it means that every 4 hours, you're going to start to feel some level of discomfort.
So, upon hearing this, the first thing that came into my mind is that's how some persons become what we call addicted.
Right.
You know, because it really does not get rid of the problem.
No.
You keep having to go back and go back to it and go back, and then you're wondering, wait, this thing not working, when in fact it didn't get rid of the problem. It put you at some comfort. And so explain to us that, because some persons are wondering how, and it's very easy. Persons may not understand how easy it is to become addicted to maybe even paracetamol.
Right, because you figure that as soon as something happens, you pop a pill.
Some people
Right.
pop it before. They say, okay,
Right.
And they know that
sometimes
they're going to
you
get
have
pain.
associate pain.
Right.
You have the main cause of a pain. Now you can have a pain that is caused because of a blow with a blunt object or a sharp object. So you're going to have pain from that. And so you need medication to get rid of it. If somebody cut you with a cutlass and it's a very deep laceration, it's simply that you have to get antibiotics now to get rid of the infection, to keep infection, and you have to get some other painkillers now to give you relief from the pain.
Right.
Right? But what are the folks who understand that if you don't look at the root cause, you're going to always take up the symptoms that you can feel, but you're not really taking care of the what is causing the problem. And so you're going to find yourself always going back to the doctor. Say, doctor, I'm coming to you for the last 6 months. I'm not getting better. And then he starts scratching his head because honestly, he doesn't know what is happening. He may give you a lot of tests to run, a lot of blood work, stool, urine, take you to do MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, everything. And for some reason, you're just not feeling better.
Right.
Right? And so therefore, all the doctor does is say, you know what? Can't you take this painkiller because he's not sure or she's not sure. All right? But at our examination, the person now, we talk about pain and we talk about associate pain. Now, let me define what I'm calling about associate pain. I just said if you get a blow from a blunt object, that's a primary pain. Or you get a laceration from a sharp object, which gives you pain, that's another original pain.
All right.
But then you may have a stomach pain. A stomach pain might be caused by acid reflux. All right? Because acid is moving in the system. And when the acid is moving in the body now, it's going to create a problem where you're going to feel some level of discomfort. But it's not pain in pain per se as something come a blunt object. It's because the acid is moving to your body, and where the acid is passing is not lined. So that, see like the stomach have some of the most strongest digestive juices in the body.
Yes.
But yet still, it doesn't affect anywhere else. Now, when people start to have heartburn, it's because that acid is backing up. All right? It backs up from the stomach. It opens up there's a muscle they call the less for short. Is called least the oesophageal sphincter. We call it less for short. But it's least oesophageal sphincter. That is the windpipe. See, when your belly is full or you have eaten enough, that muscles open up so the food can go down in the stomach and continue digestion. But when this muscle gets weak, right, it's open involuntarily. Why open involuntarily? Because there's another muscle at the bottom of the stomach that's supposed to open up for the food to pass from the stomach to the small intestine. Because the stomach picks up a signal that the food is not totally digestible in the stomach. It can't afford the food to go any further down.
Right.
Because the stomach must break it down to a point now, when it goes to the small intestine now, it is broken down to the point where the small intestine now can break it down further. Alright? And so what is happening is that the food is in the stomach too long, and so the brain message is sent to the stomach to close off the duodenum or the muscle below the stomach, close off that. So it closes off. So what happens now? The food is in the stomach, and the stomach is like a little mini volcano then, turning over.
Yes.
And by extension now, the weakest spot now in that is the least. Esophageal sphincter. It gets weak, open up involuntarily, then the acid backs up now and burn the windpipe. So that's why I'm saying it's associated pain. It's not the real pain. It's an associated pain because of
Something
acid
else.
that is moving.
Right.
And so people need to understand what is happening when you have pain. So when you have a stomach pain and it's acid reflux, it's not really pain per se, it's an associated pain, but it gives a kind of discomfort because of it is burning. I can tell people I used to have acid reflux and used to burn quite a bit when I was in school in Jamaica. And I used to go from one doctor to the next until the doctors get tired of seeing me. Say, look, hey, get out of my office. All right? And it's only when I came out of school and I met my brother who used to be a doctor, and he examined me, told me, okay, you know what? Your problem is you have acid reflux. He told me exactly why you're having acid reflux. All right? And I went about trying to treat it, and thank God today I don't suffer from it per se. If I try to eat certain food that I shouldn't eat, then of course some of the symptoms are going to come back.
Right.
If I try to eat and drink, 'cause that's one of the culprits. That's one of the things that cause the acid reflux, when you eat and drink. Now, folks cannot put on the drink.
Right. I struggle still with that
Yeah,
one.
it's not you
Sometimes
alone.
when you because you want I guess you feel thirsty, and sometimes from a child you're told, okay, eat and drink, and so on, and to actually be able to not drink when you're eating, I think it takes a certain level of discipline. And while you were speaking about the heartburn situation and the acid reflux, you can tie into that. You can tie that into your mental health. You're stressed out.
Right.
Let's take, for example, you're stressed. So you're binge eating. Well, we say binge eating, eating a lot of food, overeating, and eating the foods that are not particularly too healthy for us. And then now it can give us acid reflux because the stomach is getting too much
Right.
food than it can. So that's where we can tie in the mental health now with the physical, the
Right.
health.
So one sympathizes the other.
Yes.
And also there's some foods that are acidic in themselves. So you have to avoid those foods that are acidic if you're prone to have acid reflux. Or they use the word GERD, gastrointestinal problem. You have to be careful to eliminate those foods. So if you suffer from acid reflux, you have to eliminate things like tomato ketchup, lime and lemon and those kind of stuff.
Some people have to stay away from the dairy.
Right.
But Pastor, question here. Some persons might be saying, but say, take for example, you might be able to eat all of those acidic things, and you're okay. And I can't my body can't tolerate even one teaspoon of those things. Can you tell our viewers and listeners, why is that? Because some persons say, well, why I can't and you can. Why some persons can tolerate soda?
The
and
answer
some
to
can't?
that is simple because of the manufacturing process. Take, for instance, the orange juice, or lime juice, or any fruit for that matter, apple juice. Now, we're told that for you to get the best benefit from fruits, they must be ripened on the tree.
Right.
In other words, the sun must ripen them, and through the process of being sun ripened now, you get to neutralize the acid that is in it. Now, for instance, tomatoes are picked green, right? Not ripe. And they're put in an incubation period to get ripe over a period of time. What is happening there, the sun did not ripen them, because see, it's very important folks to understand the role of the sun when it comes to food. Fruits and so on. Fruits, we tend to say we gotta save these from the birds, because if we don't pick it when it's half ripe or so on, the birds is going to take care of it.
Right.
But what we're doing is that the acid in this stuff should be neutralized, and only the sun could neutralize the acid. So when you pick for instance, the tomato green now, that tomato is full of acid. Right? And so none of the acid has escaped. So even though it turns red because you put it in the incubator now, the incubator forced it to turn red, but it did not extract the acid out of it.
Wow.
Right? And so you find that when they go now and they process it now, you make tomato ketchup, tomato puree, all this stuff and so on now, people are going to get acid because what? It's not the acid that's going down and it's not neutralized. Same thing with lime, same thing with the lemon. Right? You need to allow these things to ripen on the tree. Pick them off when they're ripe so that they can be more effective. Your body can respond better.
But then most persons will say that's going against the what we say, production. They want to I agree with what you're saying, but yes, they say we want to produce more ketchup.
If you look at how we eat,
yes,
you just talk about the eating and drinking part of it. But do you know that when you chew the food, there are a few enzymes that are given off in the mouth through the saliva. Because when you start to prepare the food, when you sit to the food now, you start to salivate, your mouth start to water.
Digestion actually starts in your mouth.
So in other words then, there's a process of digestion that takes place in the mouth.
Yes.
Where the food has to be chewed properly, masticated, we say chewed properly, so that by the time you start to swallow now, it's easy to swallow. You don't want to be swallowing and you swallow hard and you feel like you're choking, because what? You have to fully masticate the food. Now, a lot of individuals, when they eat now, they want to eat on the fast lane.
Yeah.
So that they don't want to take a time to chew. I know I'm going to mention my brother there, Brother George, because we always at that in church on Sundays where he said, Pastor, do you actually chew 35 times? I said, yeah, maybe 45 too.
Pastor, you really chew 35 times?
Yeah, I take a lot of time to chew, because what happened? I want the salivary glands to work. When the food is chewed properly, it means that there is sufficient enough of moisture from the mouth, so that by the time it gets to the stomach now, the stomach doesn't have to do too much of moistening. It's only moistened to the point now where it goes on easily. You don't feel any hard burning gun, because sometimes when you eat, and while you're eating, you start to feel some burning. The oyster is going. Why? Because the food particle has not been totally smashed up or mushed up into things. So you're going to have those kind of negative effects, right? But I say, all habits die hard.
Yes. And
if we have gone in other places, in other countries, in Nevis, Montserrat, Singers, where we work, and you give head lecture, and the people say, Pastor, I said, we have been trained to eat and drink. But what they don't understand is that when you use empty water, it creates a system where there's too much liquid in your stomach. Then when you drink a whole glass of juice after finish now, you're further diluting. You're diluting the digestive enzyme or digestive juices in the stomach. And so whereas the food supposed to take about 4 to 5 hours to digest, it's going to take about 7 or 8 hours to digest. And the longer food stay in the stomach, is the quicker you're going to find you're going to have heartburn, because what? The least oil cervical gets weak.
Okay. Yes.
It's compromised, it gets weak. And so there's where people have a disease situation. You see, we're not really talking about disease, we're talking about preventing, but you're going to see the aspect where you realize, well, people get disease because of what? They're not eating properly. Now, a lot of individuals will try to think, but when you look at the food you eat supposed to have enzymes, right? And through the process of manufacturing the food now, some of these enzymes are lost, right? The enzymes are lost. Some people overcook the food, they heat the food, they process it for so long, they try to refine it to the point where it's so fine that the nutrients in it. That's why sometimes you see they come and say, well, they're going to give us milk or something, but it's fortified.
And the flour, the different kinds of flour, by the time as we get it in the package,
The flour is one of those things that do not really have any nutritional value, especially
Right.
white flour,
Mm-hmm.
because even the grain flour, we saw some discovery the other day where those who manufacture the grains and the wheat to make the flour and so on, what they do now, in an effort to encourage folks to eat the meat now, they decide to feed the animals with the best of the wheat products, the best of the grains, and then to sell to human beings now a substandard kind of grain. Now the grain is substandard, one, so you're not getting the required nutrients, and two, there are those who wash it out now to
Right.
produce white flour. So you're actually getting rid of what has left, the remnant now. So the little bit of usefulness in the flour now, you wash it out now, you bleach it out now, and you're selling us something that has no nutrition value whatsoever. And then again, it's what we're brought upon.
Right.
White flour.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere you go, every shop you go in the community
It's
who
white.
bakes bread, it's always white bread.
And the white rice instead
And
of
the
the
white
brown
rice
rice.
instead of the brown rice.
Yes.
And so all the nutrients they need to get is missing from the food because of over processing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they find out that they have to add different things to the food to preserve it.
And
Now-
also food preparation methods.
Right.
You would say that fry, because you have chicken
Mhm.
and you have fish. Most persons will say, well, I don't eat meat, but they eat fish.
Mhm.
But then the way that they prepare the fish is fried fish, fried fish,
Mhm.
fried fish.
Yeah, fried fish, all of us like a fried fish, but it's not the best way
Right.
to eat fish. You steam the fish,
Right. So it's food
or you
preparation.
boil it, but you do not boil it out.
Mhm.
You don't steam it for no longer than about maybe 5 minutes or so on.
Right.
It depends on how you do it, right? So, and then that 5 minutes duration now will give you sufficient time now to allow whatever, and also not only the fish but the liquid that the fish is in. You consume that as well,
Right.
because a lot of the nutrients from the fish, the omega-3, 6 and 9 that they get from fish now,
Protein.
is in that. So you need to make sure you consume the
That-
liquid
the stock.
as well as the fish itself to get the required nutrients. Now, it's interesting to know that oils, when we talk about oils now, and butter and so on, you find that the French, some years ago, they look at the oil production. Now, oil is supposed to cold press, right?
Explain to us the cold.
Cold
some
press
persons might
mean that
know.
you get the like olives,
Mhm.
and you press them after they would have been ripened to something. You press them, and the pressing now, the juice comes out from the olives.
Right. Okay.
And so you may get just this glass full of olive oil from the cold press. But what happened now? The French recognized that this is not economic for them.
Next.
So what they did now? They heat process it.
Oh.
So when they heat process it now, you don't get a glass. You may get 4 glasses.
Okay. So that's a plus for production.
It's a plus for production, but it's a minus where your health
For
is
your health,
concerned.
yes.
Because the heated oil, the nutrients in the oil is lost through the processing.
Yes.
All right? So what will happen now, when this oil cools at room temperature now, it solidifies.
Okay.
So when you open lard or margarine and you see the texture of it now, you could stick a knife in it like this.
And it stays right
It
there.
stays like this. Now, interestingly, I saw a video of a cardiologist who deals with heart, and he said that when he operates on folks who have clogged arteries and so on, what he's saying is that the same way the thing solidifies at room temperature, when you ingest it, it solidifies the same way in your body.
Wow.
That's why you have arteriosclerosis and the block in the heart and so on.
Yes.
It's the same thing. And interestingly, the same doctor, cardiologist now, met his demise because what they said is that every time he finished operating somebody, he heads to the canteen.
To
And
eat
he's
the
gulping
unhealthy,
down
the unhealthy
hot
food.
dog and
Oh.
burger and all this fat thing. And so he's educating folks now, but he wasn't educating himself. Right? And then he jumped down in the theater while operating somebody. By the time you do the autopsy on him, what happened? he died from the same thing he was trying to get rid of from this person.
Clogged arteries.
Right,
also.
because of what he eat. All right. So we're time point we have 5 minutes. So what we're saying is that the process could cause you to lose a lot of vitamins, nutrients, and enzyme. You see, the enzyme in the food is what heals you.
Yes.
So if the enzyme is lost in the food isn't really helping you. And people need to understand that it's important for them to take a time to prepare the food properly and to make sure that food that you don't need to cook, right? And when you have vegetables like broccoli and all this stuff and carrots and so on, you don't boil these.
You mostly
You steam
them. If possible, the things like carrots and so on, you can use in your salads. Your green
Right, you can salad, you can
as
shred
opposed-
them. They have different stuff, you can
Yes.
shred them so it's more palatable. Now, some folks who are elderly and who might have problem with
The
the
chewing,
teeth and
yes.
so on and have issue and so on, what we advise is that you get a blender and you can blend all these things so you can drink them.
puree them. And
Right, pure them and so.
yes.
So there should be no excuse why you cannot eat healthy. All right? And so we're talking about optimum health and how you can optimize your health. And we look at the 4 dimensions: the spiritual, the social, the mental, and the physical. All right? And we recognize too that when one suffers, if the physical aspect is in problem, the mental part is going to sympathize. All right? And we recognize too our food is important as well, because that's where we're going to get the nutrients from to keep us healthy. And if you notice in our discussion, we are not talking about disease. We're talking about how to keep yourself free from disease. As we go along in the broadcast sometime later on, as we come up from time to time, we will show you the disease situation and also how we can actually come out of it. But what we want to do is to lay the foundation for folks to recognize that, hey, if you do this, you can prevent yourself from falling into the trap of a disease situation. It's going to take some mental willpower, as you said before. Most folks are not getting better because there's not a will to get better. They want to get better, but the will is not there. Right, so as we wrap up, Sister Hughes, our time is gone about 3 minutes. Can you give us any parting words for the listening audience?
Well, the time went by so quickly, and I'm hoping that we can be able to come back and talk more about the 4 aspects and how they're interrelated. I just want to encourage us to, you may not be able to afford a lot of, as we say, healthy food, but just start where you are and, try and tune into programs like this where you can get more education and information as to how you can be creative. I think creativity has to do a lot with it. And also to remember to try and practice the principles of good health, because, the strongest sermon that you can preach is the life you live. Once persons see that you're even making an effort to be healthy, it starts maybe in your own home and your own socialization circles. So viewers, just continue to work on your physical, your spiritual, your social, and your mental health so that you can really say when somebody asks, how you're feeling, if you're really healthy, yes, you are. Physically, socially, spiritually, and mentally.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Hughes. It was a pleasure having you on board this evening for the first
here.
time. And I saw you were very comfortable, not nervous at all. You handled yourself well. Friends, we have come to the end of our broadcast for today. We just want to let you know that God desired that we be in health, good health,
Yes.
even as the soul prospers. And here at Your Health and You, our endeavor, our aim is to bring you the best method. We're not going to try to be talking about the disease so much, but we want to emphasize how you prevent the disease. All right? We will get to that aspect at some point, but what we want to do is to educate you to stay healthy, to stay well, to trust God, and to make sure that your health is on all 4 dimensions intact: your spiritual, physical, mental, and the social.
And to remember that we are fearfully and
Wonderfully made, and our soul know it quite well. And so until we come again next time, God bless you, keep sweet, and may the peace of God go with you now and always.
Thank you for listening to Your Health and You. I do hope that this health session was meaningful and informative. Remember, the Lord's desire is for you to be healthy and prosperous. Be blessed.
You're listening to Second Advent Radio, 101.5 FM. Stay tuned in.